Good afternoon. I want to thank everyone for coming to this very important meeting of the City Council as we do the people's work. We'll apologize for our lateness, but it is now 7:24. If you would, please stand for the invocation, which will be given by Reverend Joseph Kalis, pastor of Monumental United Methodist Church, and a great fellow, by the way. They just hosted Musical Week last week, and we had a splendid time at your church, sir. And that'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, each Sunday, my congregation prays for you. We pray for peace and harmony. We'll pray hard. There was a recent Supreme Court decision about prayers before town meetings. One of the justices who voted to uphold prayers before meetings said they weren't objectionable because they were ceremonial. With all due respect, I don't offer ceremonial prayers.
All right, preacher.
Amen.
But I am very much aware that perhaps not everyone here is of the same Christian faith that I profess. Perhaps folks here are of no faith. So I propose this. Let me pray my prayer. If you find yourself in harmony and agreement with my words, then after I'm done, I'll invite you to respond either aloud or silently with that ancient word of prayerful agreement, Amen. Hear my prayer. Almighty and gracious God, I come to you on behalf of the city of Portsmouth. I pray that your wisdom, your mercy, your grace will shape us, uphold us, correct us, redeem us, and remake us. I pray that this city be a city of peace, where the synagogues and temples and mosques and churches and parks and schools and city buildings and private industries are all places of healing and hope. I pray that in this city all children, all women, all men may find hospitality and acceptance. I pray for those who serve our city, for those who debate and collaborate for the greater good. I pray that all may set aside personal ambition and debilitating animosity so that the spirit of truth will reign over all. Loving God, on this night, I pray that you will strengthen that which is good and right and true and correct that which is harmful, hateful, and based on anything other than your mercy and your justice. I pray this in the name of the one who is for me the way, the truth, and the life. And let the people say, either silently or aloud, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Pastor. And I guess last week when that ruling came down, I must have received about 5 or 6 phone calls from different media outlets and some fellow who wasn't happy. But I share it with him. There's room at the cross for him as well. He hung up. But thank you very much. Members of City Council, would you please indicate your presence electronically?
Six members of City Council are present.
Thank you. Members of City Council, you have before your consideration the minutes of a call meeting of April 21st, 2014, a call meeting of April 22nd, 2014, and a regular meeting of April 22nd, 2014. Are there any corrections to the minutes?
Move adoption.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically.
Okay.
The minutes are adopted 6-0.
All right, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. New presentation? Okay. At this time, and you can see this is a well-oiled machine tonight. At this time, I want to have a brief moment to recognize some of our young students from Waters Middle School who last week, I believe, went down to Sunshine, Florida, and a environmental symposium and represented our city and represented it extremely well. So I will, if you will get me the mic, and I'll have them to meet me here if I can. All right, and we'll bring them up individually, but first of all, I want to ask the principal, Dr. Williams, if he would join me up here, the principal of Waters Middle School. Sir, you have no idea how proud we are of you and your school and your students and representing our city well and all the things you do. I know John Tyler was very upset with losing you, but you're doing great things at Waters, and that's what it's all about. But last meeting, we had a young man that came to the podium, Elvis. Thank you very much. Right? And Elvis invited all of us to come to his presentation over at Waters Middle School that they were going to do prior to them going down to Florida for this national symposium. And so several of our council members actually took you up on that, Elvis, right? You guys were a little nervous. Looking in the audience, we had Vice Mayor Cherry, we had Mr. Moody, we had Ms. Simmons, and Mr. Meeks and myself. And then from the school board, you had Ms. Costello Williams and Pastor Fleming, and who was the other person?
Ted Lamb.
Ted Lamb was there. And so you had a lot of power in that room. And I hope the hesitation that I picked up in some of the young people's voices was that they were nervous. They hadn't seen so many bigwigs in such a while. But we were pleased, and thank you for the invitation, Elvis. We say all the time, the power of one. All it takes is one person standing up for what he or she believes in and making it known. And you'd be amazed. You can move mountains. So at this time, I want to invite these students up, and I want to call their names one at a time. And you want to help me here as I come by. If I mess it up, let me know I messed it up. But where are we at here? We want to get Elvis Buckman. Elvis, you come up. Kenya Ellis. All right, start over there, Elvis. Okay, William Harris. Deontay Hill. James Hill. Shania Jones. Jalen Richards. Benita Civils. And Quinice Wilson. Now, we want to slide over here because we also want to bring up where the faculty that we have here. Could the faculty teachers please join us?
Sherry Pollard.
Okay, Ms. Pollard. I think we had a couple others here. Maureen Mizell. That's right. Come on over. And who was the other one? Tim. Where's Tim Weston? Is Tim here? And where's Julie Norton? She wasn't able to make it. Okay. All right. Okay, we got a couple of more students. All right, you're in charge.
Indigo Mosaic and Jalen Lewis. Did I miss anybody? I think that was it.
All right, very good. And again, we want to thank you for one, allowing us to understand about the Elizabeth River and our environment and the whole purpose of the symposium, not only for you to be educated about it and to educate the public about how important it is. Where's the fish? Who was the fish? Where's my fish? Come here, fish. You were, what type of fish were you?
A sexy Menhaden.
You were sexy Menhaden. All right. Now, I love to fish. Spot, croaker, flounder, I've never caught a sexy Menhaden. What's the bait? You know what kind of bait I should use to catch a sexy Menhaden?
Put a radio in the water.
Oh, a radio in the water. Okay, all right, well, think of that. Well, let me just say, we were so pleased. Yes, ma'am.
One of the families this year also that raises oysters for us, Ray Comstock.
Okay, where is she? Please come up. We had 3 families, wasn't it? Right. To allow us to raise oysters. Yeah, come over here. It's vitally important that our partnership and working together. Thank you for allowing our students to do what they do and for the whole educational piece. But we just want to thank you and congratulate you. You know, Malin Parker, we just had our PIT, and he came up to me and he was telling me, Mayor, we're streaming live. And so I went around telling everybody else that we were streaming live, and I had no idea what it was or what it meant. Well, I got a call that this was being streamed live, and I was able to go on and see it. So I learned something. So it was very rewarding for me as mayor, and I'm sure to all of our city council and our school board members to see what you did and how you did it and the way you did it is extremely important to all of us and made us all proud. And Wheelabrator, yeah, I know, look at Joel. We definitely going to plug Wheelabrator. What year was this, Joel?
This was
Is this the 4th year?
Fourth year they sent these kids down there.
4th year that Wheelabrator has sent kids down to Florida to be able to participate in this. And so we want to give a shout out to Wheelabrator and all of the things that they do within our community, because again, this too is vitally important. So before you take your seats, I do want to give you a principle here. Maureen, you need to come over here. You can come down this end. There's nothing like being retired and get to do whatever you want to do, but give the principal an opportunity. That was an excellent presentation the other night, and I think some of the young people were a little nervous in your presentation to us, but you did what we all do, right? We fall down, we do what? We get back up, we get in the game. And at the end of that presentation, all of us were extremely proud of what you did. So thank you with that. Dr. Williams.
Again, I just would like to echo what Mayor Wright said. The guys did a great job. We presented second to last. We were in the conference room on Tuesday from 7:30 a.m. to like 5 p.m. I told one of the moms, one was almost falling asleep on me, and nudged him a little bit. He woke back up because it was very long. Each team had 20 minutes to present, and we also had a panel of 4 experts. Adrian Cousteau, Jacques Cousteau's grandson, was one of them, that asked these kids some questions that, I'll be honest with you, I couldn't answer. Okay, so I was very, very, very proud of all of our students. They represented well, and we came back with a trophy and a $1,000 check.
Now, before you take your seats, turn around and face those fine people back there and thank them for coming to your presentation. Will the fine people please stand up? If you guys want to say something, Bill, or anybody want to say something about the presentation, Danny, please do.
Vice Mayor.
I just want to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I actually learned some things. You guys said some things. I thought I was pretty smart in science, but now I know I'm not smart at all. but it was great, and you all did a wonderful job. I was just happy I could be there. Thank you.
I had a flashback watching the band. In fact, they had some real professionals. The trumpet player, in particular, I'm going to see him if I live long enough on the Tonight Show some night, leading the band. It was fantastic. I saw myself, the alto sax player, did a little solo, and had a flashback when I was in those shoes, and can remember how nervous I was up there. Yeah, it was a long time ago. But I enjoyed it. All of you, fantastic. I really enjoyed the program.
Right, thank you. Ms. Randall?
Oh, I'm just so excited because I see people that came through at the elementary level and just worked right on through. And my husband is in Citric God, so he's so proud of the legacy that's being carried on at Waters. God bless you. Marvin, we go way back down. Now, I won't say how far, but we are young people. I just want y'all to know that. All right, young folks? Thank you.
Mr.
So
Meeks?
proud of you.
I learned a lot that night about our Elizabeth River, and it's very interesting to me. Kids at your age are taking interest already. That just gives me a lot of hope that our future in this city with this river, the kids at your age is already taking interest, is bright. So thank you very much.
Very good. All right, one more hand for them. All right.
Look this way. Everybody get around here, look this way.
Oh, we're looking your way.
Look right there.
Okay.
Everybody get around here. Get these close. Get ready? Everybody look right here.
That was swag.
One more.
All right, thank you. Thank y'all very much. Okay, great job. Yeah, go ahead, kids, and make a beeline out of here. I think we're going to be here a while, and we want you to go get your lesson and let that sexy Salmon get his. Sorry, sexy Menhaden get his rest. Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Mayor, just before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a little bit of change to the agenda. We have Councilman Moody.
Okay, Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of council, I move that we add an item to the public hearing agenda.
Okay. Sir, second?
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. We have a motion and a second to add an item to tonight's printed agenda.
Okay.
And you're voting electronically. This has been approved. Now for the motion on the item.
Okay, Vice Mayor Cherry.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I move to add the following, to approve the following. An ordinance to appropriate the sum of $500,000 in the general fund operation and maintenance classification of the FY 2013 and 2014 Education Fund, and $2.1 million in the other funds, textbook fund portion of the 2013 and 2014 Education Fund. Be it ordained by the City Council of Portsmouth, Virginia, that it appropriates the sum of $500,000 in the general fund operation and maintenance classification fund of FY 2013 and 14 Education Fund. Two, that it appropriates the sum of $2.1 million in the other funds textbook fund portion of the FY 2013-14 Education Fund. That the source of the appropriation is unexpected funds remaining in the FY 2012-2013 school operating fund budget that will return to the city in the city's undesignated fund balance. That estimated revenues are increased in the general fund operation and maintenance classification of the 2013-14 education by $500,000 and the other funds textbook fund portion of the 2013-2014 education fund by $2,100,000. That this ordinance shall take effect on the date of adopted by the City Council of Portsmouth, Virginia, on the meeting held on May 13, 2014.
Second.
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council has added an item to the agenda to be considered. It was not on the printed agenda. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this opportunity, of course, you had no opportunity to register. Please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on this item that has been added to the agenda, and specifically on this item added to the agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy. I live at 3104 Garland Drive. Principle of Liberty 10, the God-given right to govern is vested in the sovereign authority of the whole people. I am concerned about adding this item to the agenda without consulting with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Mark Gadulda-Yatrovsky. I live at 2713 Sterling Point Drive in the city of Portsmouth. And I share Ms. Tsai's concerns about adding this item at the last minute after what to me was a rather bizarre sort of conversation about what is and isn't remaining in the on the balance sheet for the school system. As somebody who has spoken to you before about giving back unappropriated funds or unexpended funds from the previous fiscal year, this may surprise you, but I don't believe that all deliberate consideration was given to what you're about to do. Now, the textbook funds I have no issue with. Let me make that clear. It's the other $500,000. Unaccustomed as I am to agreeing with the city manager in this particular realm, I think he raised some salient points about this. You're dealing with a fairly large number, $500,000, and you did so without any sort of documentation in front of you, without any sort of information being given to the public about this. And so I'm not comfortable with what you contemplate doing with regard to that $500,000 segment. As Ms. Tsai said, it just doesn't add up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers?
Good evening, Council. Pat Simons from Mimosa Cove. This really throws me for a loop to see this thrown on the agenda like this, and it really upsets me like it did the two previous speakers. I came here this evening, tonight, on behalf of the Portsmouth Taxpayer Alliance, and I came here to thank those council members who took seriously the 2013 report, which found that council's lax oversight of funds appropriated to the schools was irresponsible. We applaud the prompt action in passing a resolution to appropriate funds to the schools by category. If I'm not mistaken, something was just recent in that textbook fund where they had a few $1 million over. And now it's like, and I'm sorry I wasn't at the work session to understand what this was, but now there's a couple $1 million going back. And that raises all kinds of red flags for me. The tax-paying citizens of Portsmouth owe a great debt of gratitude to City Manager John Rowe and Chief Financial Officer Carol Swindell for the many long hours they spent and their diligence in uncovering the methods used in the Stuckwish initiative. And I'm wondering, based on this being thrown on the agenda, will we ever, as citizens, see an end to the Stuckwish initiative? This just smells of it to me. Thanks to John Rowe and his staff, the citizens can now rest easy knowing that school leaders will no longer divert money and expend funds on anything other than their original purpose. Perhaps if the teachers and students who came before you before and who may come before you again to complain about programs and pens and pencils and paper would take their complaints to the school board meetings where they apply, they would start to see the results they need. I want to thank you again for being good stewards of our tax dollars. And I just again reiterate, this is upsetting to see this thrown on here like this.
Thank you very much. Are there any other speakers? Hold on. Yeah, we'll call for the question.
Greetings to the mayor and the city council, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. And I had also come to speak on the budget later on in the evening, and since this has come up, I'll just share my feelings with you
Can you
now.
state your name and your address?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yes,
I meant to do, yeah. Okay. I'm Chris Evans. I live on Yorkshire Road in Green Lakes in the city of Portsmouth.
Okay, thank you.
And so I've been in Portsmouth for 10 years now. And I came to support also Mayor Rowe and Ms. Swindell and the rapid response to the situation that we have seen with the school board and monies. And I'm uncomfortable also with, not without there being enough detail given in advance. And my only statement, and then I'll end, is that there is no seat of government anywhere on the planet that has a treasury of money of their own. All the money that is dispensed in and out of any seat of government, school boards, city council, state, federal, is taken from taxpayers, is taken from people who are working. That's where the money comes from. And that's also where the passion can come from on either sides of these issues, it is taxpayer dollars, and we should all be understanding of where it's all going and how. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers?
Good evening. My name is Dolores Knight, and I live in Crowder. I was in the work session. It was a disaster. And Mr. Rowe has done so much for us. He has really worked hard and furiously long hours, he and his staff, to help us so that we will not have high taxes, not real estate tax, nor personal property. And then tonight, this came about, and he already has the budget set. He's been through this fine-tooth comb many, many times, and I think this is much, much too long. I don't think, if they need the money later, okay, but I don't think this is right at this time, because the budget is ready, and then some agree and some don't. And I think it's really, really wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else willing to?
Good evening. My name is Margie Tyner. I don't live in Portsmouth. I teach here. I live in Chesapeake. My address is 912 Godwin Avenue. For the last 5 years of my life, I have dedicated my time to serving the children of this city. I spent 4 years teaching at Brighton Elementary. I am currently the lead science teacher at Churchland Elementary School. I can understand everyone's discomfort with being very confused about where the money goes, because I work in Portsmouth schools and I'm not sure where all money goes. When I worked at Brighton, I had to buy my own paper. I taught math. We didn't have a textbook at the time, so it was a lot of paper. Now that I work in Churchland, I teach science. Our science textbooks are from 2004, when Pluto was still a planet. We don't have the resources that we need to teach the current SOLs. Students that are in grades kindergarten through 2, who are getting their basic foundations for learning, don't have science textbooks at all. That's a problem for me as a teacher, as a concerned citizen, as someone who lives in Hampton Roads, because whether or not I live in this city, These children are our future. Please consider that when you are thinking over the facts tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wanting to speak? Okay, yep, there's already a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded, I believe. And just to the speakers and to all of you, we hear you loud and clear. This transition that we're going through with our schools and our financing is going to work, and we're going to see to it that it works, and we're going to make sure that we have the proper oversight. But we are not going to have kids not having the things in their activity funds and in the textbooks for next year and all of those types of things. And so as we work through this together, council and school board, be assured that oversight is not going to be diminished in this. But we've got to get there, and we need to make sure, first of all, that the confidence is within our school board, our teachers, and our administrators, that the funding is there to be able to make sure that we do what we all want done here. So with that, Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. One of the problems, and it's not in this ordinance tonight that I will support, but there needs to be a culture change. I've heard teachers come before this body saying that they don't have enough paper, they have computers that aren't working. We've had bus drivers say that they have to buy their own brooms to sweep the buses out, and so on and so forth. Well, I've asked the question, well, why are you coming to us? Why aren't you coming to the school board? And obviously, they're not comfortable going to the body that they should be going to request the tools that they need to teach their children. We're not going to correct that tonight, but I challenge the members of the school board to establish a culture where a teacher like just came and spoke to us a while ago can go to their body and say, listen folks, my classroom's computer is broken, or my science book is a 2004 science book that still has Pluto as a planet. Until that culture changes, there's going to be a problem. They should be very comfortable in going to their own elected body, their own employer, if you may, and say, listen, I need some tools. You know, if you're a construction guy out here building apartments and condos, and you're showing up on the job and you don't have the right tools to lay brick, you're going to go to your supervisor and say, hey, I can do a good job for you, but I got to have the right tools. What I'm hearing way too much of is that these folks are scared to go to their own school board, and I see a school board member out there squirming, but that's the truth. They come to this body, they don't go to your body and tell you that they need computers, that they need textbooks, that the textbooks are outdated, that the brooms are outdated, or they don't, I guess a broom don't get outdated, but they don't have a broom. Mayor, that culture has to change, and hopefully the message will get out there where these people are very comfortable in doing that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, there's a motion on the floor in a second. Madam Clerk.
You all are voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0.
Thank you. All right, Madam Clerk.
Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice the timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your remarks at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments. And I must add for clarification, those who just spoke on the added item, if you signed up as a non-agenda speaker, you will not be called again. Okay. Public hearing, 14-179, public hearing on recommended 2015 through 19 capital improvement program. Our registered speaker is Mr. Mark Gdaldik-Utrovsky. But he's on item. It's not on agenda.
And just for clarification, he's speaking on a specific item, the reason why he's getting to speak again. Her point was non-agenda speakers, you've lost that opportunity. Yes, sir.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow citizens. I want to address the recreational part of the capital improvement budget, the proposals that were aired publicly 2 weeks ago. I have had time now to absorb the massive information that was brought to us, and I have some concerns. I believe that the intent of the proposal to use schools to improve existing facilities and thereby provide more recreational opportunities for young people, old people, and everybody in between across the city is commendable. But I'm not sure that the way the pieces of the puzzle are being assembled is going to give us the picture that we want. I'm also skeptical. I hate to introduce a note of cynicism here. I'm also skeptical of something that's being put together in a council election year, especially when it has 4 out years along with the funded year to make all of this happen. I've lived in this city long enough to know that we spend money, we get consultants in, we have public processes, and there's a lot of hoopla and fanfare about things like drainage improvements. But at the end of the pipeline, there's no water coming out. So it would not surprise me, based on past history in this municipality, that some improvements might get made in this current budget year, and when the election is all over and done with, oh, well, we have other priorities. Oh, well, we have something else that's come up, and we don't have the funds to carry it through. Now, I think in part, again, not wanting to insert a note of cynicism here, but I think this was crafted in response to very well, the word escapes me, verbalized, thank you, verbalized desires on the part of folks in Truxton to see a multicultural facility established in an underserved portion of this community. And this was intended to diffuse the support for that facility, which goes back to a planning process that went on in 1979 and has never been fulfilled. Again, if all of this that was laid out to us came to pass, it would be a positive thing for the city of Portsmouth. But I doubt that it will. One more consideration in this proposal is there's nothing addressing the transportation needs that would make it possible, especially for our young people, to benefit from this. We have a transit system in the city of Portsmouth that is wholly inadequate. And those who are to be served by this How are they going to get themselves to the specific facilities that would benefit them? We have a gaping hole there. And so I think this needs additional consideration. I don't think it's ready for prime time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have no additional speakers on this item. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that'd like to specifically speak on the public hearing on recommended 2015 through 19 capital improvement program, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on this item.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Ruth Okoye. I live in the River Point subdivision. I am here this evening to urge you to fully fund the capital improvement plan request of Portsmouth Public Schools. According to the mission and core value statement signed by you, City Council, that statement there, education is a priority of the city. Your statement says that it is through collaboration with the school board that we, the residents of this city, will have a preferred educational system. I ask you today to consider, how is that going to be possible when repairs to the school buildings are not funded? The school board has asked for funding to repair roofs, fix ventilation units, and repair parking lots. The funding proposed in your plan does not fully fund these items, which are the things that are necessary for our students. Delaying these items does not carry the message that you care about the schools or that education is a top priority for you. The students at West Haven can tell you when it's raining outside because there are buckets all over the inside of the building to catch the rain. As a homeowner, I can tell you that pushing off the repair of a roof only ends up in further damage to the building and a higher repair cost. These students have waited long enough, I think. Must we put off repairing their building for another year? It certainly will cost more to repair, given another year of damage. The parking lot at the Clark building is horrible. The last time that I was there, I hit a pothole that was so big, I think it could swallow one of those little smart cars. While I'm glad that my car was able to survive, what about the parents who have to go to the building for meetings? I have a feeling that parking lot is a liability waiting to happen. This was requested, but was not on your list of things to fund. Churchill High needs lights for their stage. That building houses our arts programs. The students we have practice and they study to perform in a place that is so dark that you can't see them when they perform. Again, this was requested, but is not on your list. How fair is that to our students? I have to tell you that if you continue down this path of not repairing our buildings, history will repeat itself. You fault Dr. Stuckwish for the way in which he and Mr. Pendarvis handled funds from 2007 to 2011, but I tell you that the City Council left them no choice. They had to find a way to fund the repairs and improvements needed in our buildings because the City Council refused to give enough money for the repairs and upgrades. Dr. Stuckwish is leaving at the end of the school year, and as a city, we have a chance to try again. I implore you to fund the repairs and upgrades requested for our schools so that the new superintendent's legacy will be their focus on running our schools and not the way they found money to repair the schools. What I'm asking is simple. Fully fund the capital improvement requests made by Portsmouth schools. Fund these requests for our schools because the schools are for our city. If you can't do something this simple for our city, how can we, the voters who put you in office, trust you to take care of other things that our city needs? Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
My name is Karen Streeter. I live in the River Point neighborhood in Portsmouth. I want to thank you tonight for approving the textbook funds. There are a lot of children that are going to be doing a lot of great things as a result of that decision, and I thank you for that. I thank you, Mr. Moody, for pointing out that our children need the tools and that our teachers need the tools to do their job and that our students need to learn. A part of that, though, is the buildings that they are doing that learning in. It's hypercritical. I was the public information officer for the school division in 1998. I stood on the steps of Simonsdale Elementary with Channel 10 when the thermometer was over 100 degrees and the students were in that building and they were expected to take tests. I stood on the steps of Hunt Matt Middle School when parents had raised a health issue because kids were inhaling paint chips up their nostril on the 3rd floor of that building. I stood with the media when we talked about boilers that were breaking and all of those things that impacted the very thing that is supposed to take place in that building, and that is learning. When I look at this 5-year plan, I say to myself, are we not now turning around and heading back? I see that the capital improvement request for the 5-year was approximately $32 million. And that funding, I believe what's coming from you over the 5-year period is about $13 million. And I say to myself, are we not now going to repeat the same pattern that had me standing on the steps of Simonsdale when the temperature was over 100 degrees? I ask you to think about that. That is critical. People in this city, they move here because the city is strong, and the city is strong because of its schools. And that includes the facilities that house those children. If you've not been over to S.H. Clark anytime recently, you really need to go over there and just take your brand new car and ride around in that parking lot, and then you can go back over to Merchant Tire and get a wheel alignment. This is something that you really need to look at, because this is only going to get progressively worse with no plan in place to work towards correcting it. What I want to say to you finally also is that the percentage of investment that you're making from a capital improvement standpoint with respect to the value of all of those assets added together, honey, that is paltry. You need to look at every one of those buildings, and you need to look at the value of those assets, and you need to invest in it the same way you invest in everything else. We've made moving forward, I think it's fabulous, but I don't think we need to leave that behind. Lastly, public schools are the last bastion of our American public culture. Without them, those with the privilege of being born into better economic situations will eventually be the only ones who would be educated. Don't lose sight of that. Don't make decisions that take people who are at risk and continue to leave them there. Fund the capital improvement plan for the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Streeter, I appreciate your concerns as well as the other speaker. In fact, I was appalled when I got on council in 98 that, and I think I recall you probably coming to this body then and speaking about the lack of air conditioning in the summertime and lack of heat in the wintertime in many cases. And Ms. Randall was here, and pleased to say that council saw that needed to be fixing and set out to fix it. And
yes.
We probably had a small celebration in a couple years, couple budgets later to pat ourselves on the back that we did what we should have done anyway, and that's to fund the schools so they could put air conditioning and proper heat in those schools. I don't want to go back to that period either. So my question, Mr. Manager, tonight we're hearing some valid concerns. What assurance can we give Ms. Streeter and others that we're not going to go back to those days? I too, in the number of facilities and the number of needs, the amount does seem kind of paltry. So what's your take on it?
My take is this, as we discussed last night, and you brought up the bit about deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance is the haunt of every organization, both public and private, because it's easy to defer maintenance. And we got a big deferred maintenance backlog on both the city and the school side. I'm proud to say that we're taking steps forward. I think it's pretty dramatic, though, to bring up a school like Simonsdale that has been torn down and to go back to 1998, because we're not living in 98, we're living in 2014. And I think we're moving forward. And the assurance I give is that we will work hard to make sure that all of our buildings are safe. As I presented to council last night, we're putting a new condition index assessment system in so we can assess every facility and prioritize them and fix the worst first. I think it's going to be a great day when there's one person who gets up every morning and is concerned about all the buildings in this public buildings, that is, in the city of Portsmouth, whether or not it's a courthouse, a pump station, a school playground, a school gym. Right now, I don't think that we have the right organization to do that. I think that we can get some efficiencies by having a grander economy of scale and address our capital needs.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. That program, Ms. Streeter, that he's speaking of is going to put control in the facilities where the manager, and I guess my question is, will the schools be tied into that, where if Waters has a leaking roof, where they can, what was the name of that program, Fix It Dude, something like that?
Right.
That they can enter that into the system and thereby bring it to someone's attention and having a record that the request has been made as well. Will the schools be privy to that?
That's one of the first things we have on the agenda, to talk with the new superintendent when he or she comes on board.
Okay.
And with all due respect, I disagree about looking back to 1998, because when you don't pay attention to history, you are doomed to repeat it. And you really need to look, because it was decisions such as these that led us down that path. So you cannot discard what happened in the past. And the city council did agree to fund the capital improvement plan for the school system, but I believe the extra $5 million or so that was supposed to happen happened for 2 or 3 years, and then it stopped. And that's what began this whole thing from He Who Shall Not Be Named that we want to talk about in terms of the monies that were used to fix the schools. So yes, sir, we need to look at 1998, and we need to look at every one of those other years, because the city council agreed to fund the schools, and that stopped after 3 years, but those roofs keep leaking, and those schools still need to be built. Thank you.
Ms. Randall?
I just have to say, echo, having been around and watched it from its earlier processes, I know where you're coming from. And we've come a long ways, and we made a Renaissance turnaround to a certain point. But we've never completely gotten to the point that we've been able to fully fund the needs that we've had in our schools. We've made tremendous progress, but we still have a long ways to go.
Yes.
And that was something that we pushed for, and we're still pushing for.
Yes.
Other priorities should not come before our future, and children are indeed our future. And in order for the children to be our future, the educators have to be there to teach them. So we still have not reached that mountaintop. And I say, all of you out there, have faith. We're going to reach it if we keep pushing to make things better for the future generation. I want you to know I never forgot my commitment when I came on this council.
Thank you.
And I'm not forgetting it.
Thank you, ma'am. Well done. Well done. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Seeing no additional speakers on this item. This public hearing is now closed. 14-180, public hearing to consider an amendment to the annual operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2014. And just before we begin this public hearing, I just wanted to be clear that this is an amendment to the current annual operating and capital budgets, not the proposed.
Okay.
At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on the amendment to the annual operating and capital budgets for fiscal year 2014. Members of City Council, this public hearing is closed.
Very good.
14-181, public hearing on use permit and street closure applications. Item A, UP 1404, Highland Bitmore subdivision. Teresa Cox Ford requests a use permit for a family child daycare home at 603 Hanson Avenue for 12 children ages 1 to 4 years. The property is zoned urban residential. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends low to medium density single-family residential development. Vision principles, lifelong learning community, and neighborhoods and sense of community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Stacy Porter, and I'm a senior planner with the Planning Department. And I'll give an overview of the applicant's request. The applicant's family child daycare home is known as Toddler Time. They have been licensed for up to 5 children with the City of Portsmouth since January 1st, 1996. The use permit request today is to care for up to 12 children. The applicant's family child daycare home is located within a 1-story single-family structure in the Highland Biltmore subdivision. The property is zoned urban residential UR. The property is fully surrounded by single-family residential development, also zoned urban residential UR. This is the submitted site plan showing the single-family home and yard. Outdoor play area is provided within the rear yard. According to Portsmouth City Code Section 40.1-5.1, off-street parking, loading, and circulation, the parking requirement for a family child daycare home is 3 spaces plus 1 for every staff member, which has been interpreted by staff to mean every full-time staff member. The business is staffed full-time by the applicant and 1 part-time assistant. Therefore, the applicant must provide 4 parking spaces for the business. According to the zoning administrator, the property contains 1 driveway space with sufficient room to create 3 additional on-site spaces. If the use permit is approved, condition number 2 in the staff report requires the applicant to create 3 on-site parking spaces to meet the parking requirement. Planning staff recommended the approval of the use permit request at the Planning Commission's April public hearing. The Commission concurred with this recommendation and voted 5-0 for the approval of the use permit. And that concludes that presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 1404. And at this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this item but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 1404. Members of council, this public hearing is closed.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is approved 6-0. Item B, UP 1405, Cavalier Manor subdivision. Tanya Sprawling requests a use permit for a family child daycare home at 703 Hancock Avenue for 12 children from infancy to 5 years. The property is zoned urban residential. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends low to medium density, single-family residential development. Vision principles, lifelong learning community, neighborhoods, a sense of community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Oh, again, good evening. Stacy Porter, Senior Planner with the Planning Department. The applicant's family child daycare home is known as Little Sunshine Daycare, and they have been licensed for up to 5 children with the City of Portsmouth since November 26, 2002. The use permit request today is to care for up to 12 children. The applicant's family child daycare home is located within a 1-story single-family structure in the Cavalier Manor subdivision. The property is zoned urban residential UR. The surrounding neighborhood is characterized by single-family residential development and a church. Surrounding zoning is urban residential UR, general mixed use, GMU, and neighborhood mixed use, NMU. This is the submitted site plan showing the single-family home and yard. Outdoor play area is provided within the rear yard. According to Portsmouth City Code Section 40.1-5.1, off-street parking, loading, and circulation, the parking requirement for a family child daycare home is 3 spaces plus 1 for every staff member, which has been interpreted by staff to mean every full-time staff member. The business is staffed full-time by the applicant and 1 part-time assistant. Therefore, the applicant must provide 4 parking spaces for the business. According to the zoning administrator, the property contains 3 driveway spaces with sufficient room to create 1 additional on-site space. Engineering staff also noted that on-street parking is available and would still allow for 2-way traffic flow along Hancock Avenue. If the use permit is approved, the applicant must provide or designate, if utilizing on-street parking, 1 additional parking space for the business. Planning staff recommended the approval of the use permit request at the Planning Commission's April public hearing. The Commission concurred with the recommendation and voted 5-0 for the approval of the use permit. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 1405. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 1405. Members of council, this public hearing is closed.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically.
Very good.
This item is approved 6-0. Item C, UP 1406, North Truxton. Charles Bodner with Hoggart U Associates Incorporated is requesting a use permit to operate an assisted living facility with 20 beds in an existing building located at 3301 Armistead Drive that was formerly occupied by a nursing home. The property is owned by SP-1 Properties, LLC, and is designated on the Comprehensive Plan's generalized future land use map for single-family residential, high-density uses. The property is currently zoned urban residential. Vision principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have Mr. Bodner for once the presentation is done.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, my name is John Hartley, Planning Administrator with the City Planning Department. This next item on your agenda is a request to revive, I guess if you want to call it that, a building that sits in the North Truxton neighborhood. It was a nursing home or a convalescent home by the name of William T. Hall Memorial Convalescent Home. And the building was built in 1963 and operated until 2008 when that facility was closed. Now they're proposing to convert it to an assisted living facility with up to 20 beds. The property is zoned UR, and as you can see from the zoning map on the right, the entire neighborhood is zoned UR. Little different perspective. The site that is before you under this case is highlighted in yellow, and it is surrounded essentially by single-family residential development. Here's another perspective. The site is outlined in yellow with essentially single-family residences surrounding the entire site. Picture from the front, it's a one-story building. This is as it faces Armistead. And then this is the rear of the building, and one of the things that we still have to work out with Mr. Bodner and the owners is some kind of screening or fencing across the back. There was a utility easement that's now been abandoned, and so that's something that we'll work with Mr. Bodner during the site plan review and approval process. Something to protect the neighbors in the back. These are some of the surrounding residences, just to give you a sense of the scale of the scope and scale of the community. There's an overall site plan of the property. The building is highlighted in yellow. The hatched area is actually a new parking lot that is proposed. It will accommodate 10 vehicles and solve a little bit of a problem that occurred in the past with this site. The parking lot will be a pervious material, so it'll reduce the need for any kind of stormwater management on the site, which is a good thing to see developers turning to. The Planning Commission considered this at their public hearing and recommended approval of this request 5-0, and there are 3 conditions that are in your packet, and that concludes my presentation. Again, Mr. Bodner is here if you have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Mayor. My question is for Mr. Bott. Well, you may be able to answer it. At the Planning Commission meeting, there was some question about whether the neighborhood had been contacted, the community specifically. Has that taken place?
I believe Mr. Bodner did meet with the community. He did try to contact the North Truxton community and was advised at the Planning Commission meeting that he also needed to talk with another civic league. So.
Is he here?
Yeah, he's here.
He's going to come down. That's his thing.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is C.J. Bodner. I'm the Director of Community Development Division for Hoggard Ure Associates, located at 901 Port Center Parkway, Suite 5 here in Portsmouth. To answer your question, Vice Mayor, we did meet last Tuesday with the Wilson Ward Civic League, and I want to thank Ms. Johnson for having us to the meeting. And also for continuing my education on where proper neighborhoods are. The meeting went well. There were no concerns regarding the project. My client, just to make sure everyone's clear on this, it is going to be a assisted living facility. It is not a group home. It is not a halfway house. It is not anything of that nature. It is going to be an assisted living facility with 3 full-time during the day and 2 at night individuals who will be there to assist the people who live there. I am available for any other questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moody?
Thank you, Mayor. And my question is to the possible group home use. What in this agreement protects us from it evolving into a group home? And my question is to our staff.
I think that's a staff question,
Yeah.
Councilman Moody.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is being permitted only as an assisted living facility, not as a group home. So if it were to become a group home, it would be a violation of the zoning ordinance.
So we could, in effect, pull the use permit at that point in time?
They'd be in violation, yeah, yes. We could pull the permit. It would be invalid.
Well, being in violation is one thing, but I want to protect the community from it becoming a group home. And the only way to do that is to have a proffer saying this is to remain a group home, assisted living facility, not a group home.
And if council wishes to add that as a condition, that can be done, and staff can, with the city attorney's office, can craft a condition that it not be used as a group home.
You all right with that, Mayor?
I am.
Colleagues?
Yes.
I think we need that protection for the
Yes.
community. It's best to take care of a problem before it happens.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Ms. Randall?
My comments are right along his line there. I just wanted to make sure that we understood the terminology so that it would not turn into something where the residents would not be acceptable to them. They operating under one assumption and something else is in the minds of the developer.
Yeah, this is an assisted living facility pursuant to the state licensing requirements for such a facility, and that's all that's being approved. A group home, if what you're talking about is more than 8 individuals who are, I'll say mentally challenged, or any, we also have a category for halfway houses that would include anybody who either has a drug or alcohol problem or is released from prison. Those are different uses under the zoning ordinance and would require separate approval.
Okay, we're
Okay,
good.
thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 1406. At this time, if there is anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on this item. Members of council, this public hearing is closed.
Move for approval. Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got it.
We got it. We got it.
This item is approved 6-0. Item D, S 1401, Port Center Commerce Park, ordinance granting the request of Jeffrey Miller, Assistant City Attorney, to close Henry Street between Effingham Street and Green Street, combining the right-of-way with other properties to the north and south owned by the City of Portsmouth. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends this area for mixed-use employment. Vision principle, a robust economy for working men and women. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is John Hartley. This is the first step in a multi-step process. What's proposed is to close a small segment of Henry Street, which you can see is between Effingham and Green Street. On the left is a photo of that street. The Department of Economic Development and the Economic Development Authority are proposing to consolidate this property. It will include first the closing of this street, and then a rezoning of the property would be proposed to general mixed use, and then the property would be redeveloped through the Economic Development Authority. And if you have other questions about that, I believe Mr. Small is here to answer those.
Okay.
The street is highlighted in yellow, and you can see there are approximately 21 lots between the fire station and Lincoln Street that are all owned by the city. There are no privately owned properties that are affected by this street closure. Again, the intent is to create a lot for the fire station and then create 3 additional lots for future redevelopment. And then some pictures of the surrounding area. This is looking west towards Effingham from Green Street, and looking east towards Effingham. And you'll also notice possibly in this picture there is no median cut into this street, so there's no issue of crossing traffic and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the surrounding uses, the fire station to the north, and then some of the residences directly across the street from this property. The Planning Commission did consider this at their public hearing and recommended approval 5-0. There are no conditions or anything attached with this. We will probably be discussing some conditions with the rezoning when that comes before you.
How does that coincide with the development that we're doing on Lincoln, right there on Lincoln and Effingham, you know, that?
I believe this is that development.
I mean, that's gonna help or hurt as far as traffic egressing in and out of those businesses?
The intent is to close Henry Street, but Henry Street will continue to be used as the only access to those properties.
Okay.
From Effingham, so it'll be a right in, right out.
I got you. Very good.
And then there'll be two businesses as it's been proposed that will front on Lincoln Street, and both those will have access over the closed Henry Street.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Street will be a private commercial drive.
Okay. And they're okay with that, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item S 1401. At this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item S 1401. Members of City Council, this public hearing is closed.
Move for approval.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. Item E, UP 1408, Downtown, Sharon Hall. Agent for the Whitmore Company requests a use permit to construct a multifamily apartment building containing approximately 46 residential units that exceeds the allowable density in the downtown D1 T4 sub-district. The property contains .87 acres and is located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Washington Street and County Street at 600 Washington Street. The property is owned by West Tex Properties. The comprehensive plan's generalized future land use map recommends downtown mixed-use development with the permitted density of up to 12 units per acre, whereas 51.43 units per acre is proposed. Vision principle, neighborhoods and a sense of community, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, again, my name is John Hartley. This is a proposal for, as you just heard, a multifamily apartment building at 600 Washington Street. The property is zoned in the downtown district. It's in the T4 sub-district, and to the left is a small rendering of the property. This is a project that's proposed by the Whitmore Company, i.e. Dan Aston. The existing building that's on the site is the Texcom building. It was built in 1955. This building will be demolished. The top photo is probably the view that we're all used to. The bottom photo is the back of the building. To the north, you have the First Lutheran Church, and to the south, you have Columbia Commons. And I included a picture of the former Department of Social Services building where behavioral health is located now. Just to give you a sense, this is a 7-story building. There are other taller buildings in the area. What is proposed is a 4-story building. There are also denser projects in the downtown area than what is proposed with the 51 plus density. Just some other shots from around the area. To the east is the former St. Mark's Church of God. I believe that's a vacant. They're no longer occupying that building at this point. And then a couple of shots of Green Street, which are really the street next over to the west of the site that's proposed for development. What is proposed is a building that's somewhat similar to the one that Mr. Aston proposed at the intersection of Court and County. And this is a little bit of a smaller version. It is 4 stories, will contain 46 dwelling units. In addition to that, they are providing 43 parking spaces on site. for an overall density of a little over 51 units per acre, where the ordinance recommends 12 units. And again, I would emphasize that if you look at the downtown area, there are a number of sites and buildings that have a higher density of residential development than what's proposed. On the top is here is a rendering of the building, and essentially the top rendering is what you would see from either County or King Street, and then the bottom rendering is a rendering of the building as it would appear on Washington Street, and it'll be essentially a red brick for the first story and then a whiter brick on above that. I should mention also that the design and the height of this building was reviewed and approved by the Downtown Design Committee back in the winter of last year. The Planning Commission considered this item at their last meeting and recommended approval 7-0 with essentially 3 conditions. The first is substantial conformity with the plan and the renderings that you've seen on the screen and are in your packet. A maximum of 46 units, since this is a request for density. And the third one is the payment of any back taxes and remaining taxes on the property to be worked out with the treasurer, because there are some back taxes that are owed on this property, so between the applicant and the treasurer. And that concludes my presentation. Mr. Aston is here if you have questions of him.
And just for clarification, that is the old Bank of Virginia building that we're talking about demolishing, correct?
And that predates me. I'm a newbie, so.
Okay. For a lot of us, that's what that building is.
Thank you, Mr. Ray.
All right, thank you. Mr. Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. My question is the expected tax revenue that the city will generate. I always like to ask that question.
I have to defer that to Mr. Aston.
Come on up, Dan.
And
Tell us.
Thank you for your investment in our city, Mr. Aston.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we anticipate the 2 buildings which are being built in conjunction with each other will cost approximately $16 million. So if you take that times the tax rate, it'll be somewhere around $200,000 a year in additional revenues just as with regard to property taxes.
That's not to mention the spending impact that
Absolutely. There'll be,
the residents will have.
There'll be a lot of people calling downtown home and, shopping and going to the Commodore and going to the restaurants and all the things we want to happen downtown.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your investment.
Thanks, Dan. That's very good.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on item UP 1408. And at this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to speak but did not have an opportunity to register, please come forward, give your name and address, and you will have up to 5 minutes to speak on item UP 1408. Members of City Council, this public hearing is closed.
Of adoption.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you'll be voting electronically. This item is approved 6-0. City Manager's Report 14-182, adoption of an ordinance repealing Chapter 31.1 of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, and adopting a new Chapter 31.2 pertaining to stormwater management in accordance with the Virginia Stormwater Management Act and the Virginia Stormwater Management Program regulations. Vision principle, efficient responsive government, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. 14-183, adoption of an ordinance to appropriate in the other funds grants fund portion of the FY 2013-14 Education Fund the sum of $60,000 in Individuals with Disabilities Act grant funds received from the Commonwealth of Virginia for delivery of additional instruction to disabled middle and high school students. Vision principles, quality of life, and lifelong learning community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and we're voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. 14-184, adoption of an ordinance to appropriate the sum of $378,935 in the other funds school activities fund portion of the FY 2013-14 Education Fund. Vision principle, quality of life, and lifelong learning community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. 14-185, adoption of an ordinance to appropriate $229,963,046 in additional revenue and $229,963,046 in additional expenditures in the FY 2013-14 operating and capital improvement budgets to transfer $35,917,277 within the FY 2013-14 general fund and to reallocate existing appropriated capital improvement funds within the FY 2013-14 capital improvement fund. Vision principle, efficient responsive government, electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move adoption.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. 14-186, adoption of an ordinance realigning categorical funding levels for the Portsmouth Public Schools FY 2013-14 operating budget. Vision principles, quality of life, and lifelong learning community. Electronic roll call, and I have no registered speakers.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Mayor, we have a motion and a second, and you're voting electronically. This item is adopted 6-0. New business 14-187, boards and commissions. Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, Mayor, members of council. There are no boards and commissions business for tonight.
14-188, items submitted by council members.
Let me first say, we've had a lot of activities last week going on here, our arts festival, and I always say this, and I appreciate all of our citizens that come out and have an opportunity to see a lot of the great things that we have to offer downtown here in Portsmouth, that in conjunction with the start of our farmers market back open and all of those things. And if you're there to see all of the folks going back and forth, it really gives you a different perspective of how many people and new people that are coming down and continually saying they didn't know we had these types of offerings. Secondly, I want to thank the Church of God in Christ and Bishop Ted Thomas Sr., the pastor of a new community temple here located out in Ebony Heights. They had a national leaders convention here from the Church of God in Christ that consisted of about 2,000 bishops and elders and pastors in this country, and they were all here in Portsmouth. And just to give you some idea how significant that is, that's 2,000 leaders. We had the governor to come and welcome them to the Commonwealth because it's been probably about 5 or 6 years before they've been in the state of Virginia. But Senator Lucas and myself were there to welcome them on Monday, and they had activities all throughout the week, and the governor's trying to get them to have their general convention here, and the bishop mentioned that the city of Portsmouth wasn't big enough to hold all of its folk. So maybe that's an opportunity for us to work with several other cities. Matter of fact, very few cities around here are big enough to hold that general convention there. But I want to thank Bishop Ted Thomas, because he's one of the general board members of that organization, and he's the only one in Virginia on that board. And to be able to sway that board to come here and to have people from all over this country here in Portsmouth and recognizing and realizing the things we have here, I think is special. So with that, Madam Clerk. Yes, let me read this. This is from Karen Bynum Fields. Thank you very much. I almost forgot that. To whom it may concern, Lakeisha Cole, a native of Portsmouth, Virginia, has been featured all over the U.S. for being selected as the Marine Corps Spouse of the Year for 2014, and now Armed Forces Military Spouse of the Year for 2014, an honor recognized by all armed force militaries with distinction. So we want to say congratulations to Ms. Cole, a native of Portsmouth, Virginia, for this distinction, and congratulate her for a job well done. Yeah, absolutely. Hoorah.
Are there any other items submitted by council members? Okay. 14-189, report on pending items. Ms. Bernadette Hogg.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. I'm Bernadette Hogg, City Ombudsman, and would like to give you the report on the non-agenda speakers and pending items for the council meeting on April 22nd, 2014. There were 5 non-agenda speakers at the council meeting on April 22nd, 2014. One of the speakers required action by staff. Joe Frislowski spoke on behalf of a group of citizens requesting the establishment of a summer homeless shelter to complete the year during the months that Portsmouth Volunteers for the Homeless does not operate its emergency shelter. Staff coordinated a meeting for Mr. Frislowski and his partners with the PVH Board Chairman, Executive Director, and Deputy City Manager for May 12, 2014 to discuss their concerns. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
14-190, non-agenda speakers. Our first speaker is Mr. Bill Hayden.
Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. As Deborah just said, my name is Bill Hayden. As most of you know, I'm a retired admiral. I live in Virginia Beach, that foreign city over there. And I'm currently the volunteer executive director of Starbase Victory Program here in Portsmouth. In front of you and being passed out at the moment is a letter from Tim Schweitzer, chairman of the board of Starbase Victory Incorporated. It's co-signed by me, and it makes the case for our Starbase program. I was tempted to simply read the letter this evening, but I decided instead to use my 5 minutes to talk on behalf of our board of directors, many of whom are here. If you'll stand up. My moral support. Thank you. And on behalf of the children of Portsmouth, please fund Starbase and the STEM pathways. Mr. Moody, as soon as I talk to you all, my next stop will be the school board. As you know, I am not a constituent, so you don't have to worry about my vote. However, I think you should carefully consider my arguments, because I don't really have a personal agenda in this budget dilemma that you're faced with in the coming year. While it's true my executive director position depends on that budget, my livelihood does not, since I'm a volunteer. If you fail to fund Starbase, however, I'll simply go home and play a little more golf. Or perhaps I'll start a Starbase in Virginia Beach. They've asked me, but I told them that you all had first draft pick. And you did. That was 12 years ago when Dr. Daniels, Councilman Whitehurst, and I brought the STAR-based program here to Portsmouth. Back then, STEM was not a common acronym, nor was it a popular cause. Because we all believed that the children of Portsmouth deserve the opportunity to see how math and science and technology actually impact their lives, we brought that program here to Portsmouth. Those early kids are out in the workforce today, and I wish I could tell you that they're all engineers or scientists or technicians. I don't know, but I do know that many of them are college graduates, including DeAndre Carswell, who recently received his master's degree from Old Dominion University in mechanical engineering. DeAndre, by his own testimony, would tell you that it was launching his rocket at Starbase that changed his life. And I'm sure there are dozens, perhaps hundreds of other stories like that. Since those early days, over 10,000 children have passed through Starbase, enjoyed the hands-on excitement of what we do there. More than 100 businesses and private citizens have contributed over $1 million to our program. Much of that money was from outside the city of Portsmouth. This is a public-private venture that is definitely providing more bang for your public buck. And it's making a significant difference in the lives of many, many children. It was always obvious to us and to our donors that the students were getting the message, that math and science have a place in their lives, and that those subjects can actually be fun. But I was often asked to prove its value. So often, in fact, that our board of directors authorized a comprehensive study of the program last year. Dr. Dan Dickerson from Old Dominion University and his STEM consulting services were ultimately able to prove that Starbase has in fact closed the black-white achievement gap in Portsmouth Public Schools, and that the students and their parents are overwhelmingly excited and want more Starbase experiences. We now know conclusively that Starbase is making a difference in the lives of your children. That study was just published in a prestigious national professional journal called the Research in Science Education. And other communities have contacted us and visited Starbase to see what we're doing. As a retired admiral, I've moved over 20 times in my career, and I can tell you that my wife and I always researched the local schools before we settled at our new duty station, and I'm just going to keep going.
Okay, Admiral, you done good. You tried. Let me first of all thank you, sir, for coming to Portsmouth and having the vision of this Starbase program and to have the stick-to-itiveness to be able to bring it to where it is today. Now, you've had a lot of help, a lot of board members. You mentioned Mr. Whitehurst, Dr. Daniels. I spoke at our homegoing service the other day, and that was one of the things that I spoke about, her working with you on that program and on that board to make sure every one of our kids, and there's about 3,600 of our kids go through that program. So I want to thank you for your time and efforts and taking something that the government had created and brought it in a private sector that created this partnership that allowed us to be the envy of the world, because we have people from all over coming in here talking about that program, and that program, as you well know, has morphed into all of these other things that fall under our STEM Pathways umbrella. And so thank you very much for what you're doing. It is very difficult for us to sit here and listen to the possibilities of something like that being cut. And I can assure you this council has said that they are all in favor of supporting that program. So now we've got to do the hard work of whatever it takes to make sure the proper funding is in there for that program and other programs. So thank you, and I want to thank your board here and all of the members that are here for this letter that you presented to us, and for Tim for what he's done there. Let me just ask you, so, and I'll let others, I see here the city manager wants to speak. Let me ask you something. When you first brought that program here, why? Why Portsmouth? Why did you bring it here? Did you see where we are today 12 years ago?
I did not, no. I was not at all familiar with Portsmouth. Frankly, it was Larry I. Anson and the Beasley Foundation gave me money to support the program Starbase in Norfolk. And I promised him that once I stabilized the Norfolk program and privatized it, that I would come to your city. Well, I was unable to privatize it because the federal program became fully funded. So the Norfolk program stabilized until this past year when sequestration took it away. So Norfolk no longer has a starbase. You have the only private starbase in the country. You have the only one that is not threatened by sequestration, with the possible exception of your sequestration. So I came here because Larry I. Anson asked me to, and because Elizabeth Daniels and Charles Whitehurst said, I want this program in my city.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Rowe?
Yes, sir. I'm happy to report that there is no sequestration in this budget. I have recommended full funding of the city's share.
Thank you. Again, Admiral, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Ursula Murphy? Is she still here?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of City Council. I come before you tonight to plead with you to find a way to fully fund our school systems, not just Starbase, not just the other programs.
Could you adjust your mic, please? Your microphone? Thank you.
The children of Portsmouth deserve the best. Portsmouth Public Schools cannot be allowed to revert back to what we had prior to Dr. Stuckwich's arrival, when we had an outrageous dropout rate and our schools were not accredited. The turnaround came as a result of a lot of hard work from a lot of folks. Portsmouth used to be known for its crappy school system, and to some degree, people still think that way today. Why? Because folks do not know about the wonderful programs like our STEM Pathways, the Porttown Magic, First College, and many others that are quite simply Portsmouth's best-kept secrets. We now have schools and programs that other school systems want to emulate. Why? Because they work. Please do not force our school board to decide between cutting core programs and academia in order to keep these programs and others, because we know that's not what will happen. You can say we will not cut Starbase or Porttown Magic. However, by not fully funding the school board's request, you will force them to choose. And that's not fair to the teachers or to the kids. Portsmouth is demographically 52% African American and 48% Caucasian or other. Our school system is much more divided. 73% of elementary students are African American and 27% are Caucasian or other. Countless studies have shown that elementary schools, specifically grades 4 through 6, are the critical age to capture a child's interest in staying in school. Our kids deserve to have the opportunities the countless children have experienced under Dr. Stuckwich's guidance. Schools are the streets. What will your choice be? I'm sure that our sheriff would be more than happy with the pre-Stuckwich dropout rate, as it would give him more prisoners, thus justifying keeping that albatross of a jail sitting on our waterfront or building him a new one. Consolidate the jail with the regional jail. Use the money saved to educate our children, keep them off the streets. School or jail, proactive or reactive, it's just that simple. 5 of you took my grandson up on his offer to attend the Wheelabrator presentation April 29th. I know because I was there, and I thank you very much for showing up. That meant a lot to those kids. Without the STEM Pathways programs, the program specialists in our music programs, folks like Wheelabrator, Cox Communication, Dominion Power, and many, many others will have no choice but to find other ways to make contributions to the communities that they pay taxes in, and hopefully have employees who live in them. These companies believe in our schools, and you should too. These companies sees the value in helping students to succeed, and you should too. Keep our schools moving forward, or be known as the ones who let us become like Norfolk, with unaccredited schools, closed schools, and disgruntled employees. And you can kiss goodbye any hopes of attracting new businesses to our city if we don't have quality schools. And that's going to be your legacy. In closing, you and others may not agree with how Dr. Stuckwich turned our schools around, but he turned them around. We have schools and programs to be proud of, and you must think so since you are considering opening our schools for the summer as recreational centers. Who is to shoulder the burden of wear and tear on our schools, the school board or you? You've gotten your wish. Dr. Dave is leaving. Do not allow the kids to suffer because of your personal dislike for one man and his method. As the B9 environmental control robot of Lost in Space fame used to say, this does not compute. And thank you.
Thank you. Let me just say, Ursula, before you sit down, or Ms. Murphy, I want to thank you for your volunteerism and serving on the Star-Based Board and all the things you do for our kids. And I really appreciate you bringing up pre-David Stuckwich conditions, because for those of us that were here and that were working and volunteering with our schools, we saw those things. And it troubles me as mayor to go through this city and have U.S. senators, governors come to our city talking about our programs and applauding us, and we're sitting here making a political football out of it, okay? Just because of politics, just because someone doesn't get along with someone else. Can you imagine that message that's getting out to the community? When people are coming here looking at what we're doing, looking at what our school board and our school system has done, and we're sitting here and every day in the newspaper there's something that's totally ridiculous and untrue because someone wants to leak something out to create this drama that we've created here. And now we're seeing a backing down of that. Is that how we want to be perceived?
If I could say,
yes, ma'am.
Pre-Dr. Stuckwich, we had over 200 kids a year dropping out of our schools. I think this year we had 2. That's something to be commended. You know, we don't have to agree with what he did or how he did it. And I don't even know that he did anything wrong. I mean, the U.S. government spends $600 on a toilet seat, for God's sakes, you know. But at any rate, please consider those thoughts.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Ms. Geraldine Johnson.
My name is Geraldine Johnson.
Can you talk into the microphone?
Oh, yes. I live 1012 South Street, Portsmouth, Virginia, and I live in the neighborhood of Westbury. And I'm not talking about school, but I will be talking about the safety of my neighborhood. And children do live in that neighborhood. And what I'm going to read to you. You can live in the greatest neighborhood in the universe, but if you can't take the time to get to know your neighbors, appreciate all that's going on around each day, researching the neighborhood you live in is one of the best investments you can make. You can learn quite a bit more exploring around your home each evening. Trade driving your car for a sidewalk bike ride in your neighborhood. And I forgot to let you know that the title of this is Neighborhood Safety and Invasion of Privacy. What is neighborhood safety? Freedom from harm or danger. Surveillance camera, a device designed to prevent accidents, preventing fire, loss of property, breaking-ins in our neighborhood, which caused deliberately or by accident. And I have a neighbor who has a surveillance camera. She's supposed to be watching the neighborhood, but see, when you use a surveillance camera, it's supposed to be for the good of the neighborhood and to watch out for burglars or robbery. What is invasion of privacy? It is an intrusion into the personal life of another without just cause, which can give the person whose privacy the right to bring a lawsuit. Invasion of privacy damages against the person's identity, which intrudes in their lives and conversation without reasonable cause. Invasion of privacy can be helpful or harmful to the rights of one's life, especially in the place of public eye and their daily activities. For an example, invasion of privacy, someone's privacy discloses embarrassing private information. Repeat, false information imposes important affairs, damage reputations, and in your workplace, causes a life-threatening situation. Wrongful intrusion, which the public has no concern. It can be used as a form of power of abuse, manipulation, which causes destruction. Hatred, continued gossip, defamation, slander, robbery, death, and spies to intrude in your private space, which they listen to your phone conversation. When sure invasion of privacy is life-saving, when it is used appropriate, such as saving the lives of others, free from destruction, robbery, threat, harm, embarrassing information, keeping an innocent person from going to jail, losing a job. The bottom line is protecting one's good name. And I do have a neighbor who has surveillance camera outside her house. That's it?
No, that's, keep going, that's something.
She has a surveillance camera outside of her house, but she's not using it for the good of the neighborhood. And, you know, to me, that is a complaint. I live in a neighborhood to the point where there is robbery. You would think it's a nice neighborhood. I had to actually get a gate and privacy fence built around my house just to keep intruders from doing any damage to it. And due to the fact that she may be using information to give to the person or watching to see if that person or whoever is breaking and entering into the properties, I feel like, you know, she's my next door neighbor. I feel like she should, you know, just use it to enhance the lives of others, not to destroy or damage. And I don't want to give you the person's name because, you know, her information, because I did call the police several times, many times, and they said that she has the right to have a surveillance camera. Okay, she does have a right, but if she uses it for the good of the neighborhood, that would be great. And that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
You're welcome.
Ms. Tracy Parody?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Tracy Parada. I reside at 425 Biltmore Place in Portsmouth. And I am writing and speaking on behalf of the STEM program, though I don't believe that any cut should be made to any of our programs, but particularly I'm here on behalf of STEM. I am saddened to hear that Portsmouth Public Schools STEM program is under consideration for cuts and/or elimination. As a parent of a highly motivated sophomore at IC Narcombe High School, I appreciate the commitment Mayor Wright, Dr. Stuckwish, Mrs. Nelson, Mrs. Smith, and all of the faculty and staff of STEM put forth to advance the education of our youth in STEM-related subjects. We've seen it on the evening news and morning news programs. Math and science education is on the decline in the United States. It's not just a headline ripped out of the newspaper. According to statistics compiled by the National Math and Science Initiative, the sad reality is that in 2013, only 44% of U.S. high school graduates were ready for college-level math. 36% were ready for college-level science. Of the 15 major categories, engineering has the highest median earnings, yet less than 20% of students choose a STEM path. Jobs in computer system designs and related services, a field dependent on high-level math and problem-solving skills, are projected to grow 45% between 2008 and 2018. The United States may be short as many as 3 million high-skilled workers by 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, these statistics underscore the fact that the careers of today and tomorrow, not the jobs, the careers of today and tomorrow await our students if they are proficient in math, science, engineering, and or technology. When compared to our international counterparts, the statistics become even more grim. 29 nations, the number of industrialized nations whose high school students performed better than U.S. students in math in 2012. 22 nations, that is the number of industrialized nations whose high school students performed better than U.S. students in science in 2012. In 2008, 4% of U.S. bachelor's degrees were awarded in engineering, compared to 31% in China. In 2008, 31% of U.S. bachelor's degrees were awarded in science and engineering fields, compared to 61% in Japan, 51% in China. The STEM program offered by Portsmouth Public Schools exposes children at an early age to the discovery, methodology, research, and fun that these subjects offer. The STEM faculty and staff work together to alleviate the fear many of our children may have of the challenging subject matter and creates positive experiences for them to treasure and build on from 4th grade to the end of high school. It has helped my daughter, Alexis Harold Parada, aim and achieve high goals to advance her education in STEM. Alexis was able to take the experiences she learned with her during STEM as one of 375 students from 5,000 applicants across the United States. She was selected as one of 375 students to attend the prestigious and competitive United States Naval Academy Summer STEM program in 2012. She maintains an overall GPA of 4.2, takes advanced coursework including AP Calculus as a 10th grader, and aspires to attend the United States Naval Academy, as my brother just recently graduated from last year. He also attended STEM as a Portsmouth Public School student in a STEM field. Her participation in STEM plays a great part in Alexis's enthusiasm for STEM subjects. I humbly ask the school board to reconsider the possible cuts to STEM. It is a vital program that prepares our youth for the careers of tomorrow, not the jobs of tomorrow, the careers of tomorrow. Thank you very much for your consideration and support.
Thank you. First of all, let me commend you on a job well done with your daughter. And if I remember
you.
correctly, 2 years ago, didn't she come to my office?
Yes, sir, she did.
With your husband?
With my husband and my father as well, William
And we took
O'Hara.
a photo together. I
That's
think
correct.
She was recognized in that letter she brought with me, and she
Yes.
was extremely pleased.
Thank you so much. And she's
Absolutely.
aiming high for the stars, and I thank STEM in a large part for that, and I pray that you guys do find the budgeting for that program.
Thank you, ma'am. Good
Thank
night.
Mr. Clyde Toller.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Mr. Wilson, sign on, Ms. White and staff. My name is Clyde Toller. I live 1029 Blair Street, Portsmouth, Virginia. First thing I want to say, thank you, Mr. Rowe. You're the greatest city manager we have had since 1984. Can't none of them compare to you. You're doing a good job. Don't let nobody snow you over. Keep doing a good job. Mr. Moody of Space, thank y'all for speaking up. And I want to say one thing. Last time when I was here, we had so many people in here. It was hot up in here, but cut that air conditioner there. It's too cold up here. We ain't got that many people here tonight. But if you can have all these people to come here and ask for papers and pencils and everything, they had the money. If you got a broken chair or you need paper and pencil, why don't you have enough backbone, teachers, and stand up and go to the school board and tell that chairman and the superintendent what you need? Why you come here? You wasting my time. This is my money. This is your money that their school board is messing around messing with. And I don't appreciate it. And I don't appreciate them. They very disrespectful and supposed to be high-class, educated people and walk up here and say, are you listening? That's very ignorant to say to somebody on this council. And a many of them came here for a job, that's right, for a paycheck. That's what the many of them came here for, because they didn't have no job, so they came for a paycheck. If you got a leaky building, put a bucket on it, and then go to the school board. I see all these teachers. I sit out here and I heard some remark when the chairman came in here, I hope he see me, I hope he see me, so he know I'm supposed. What are they afraid of? I know some teachers, they didn't show up here. They said take them to court because they weren't going to show. I know what that old thing is. Hey, you wasn't threatening a way, say you better be there, but you were threatening to pay you best to be there. And that's why all of them was up in here. But the good teachers weren't here. The good principals wasn't here. But they come up in here and ask for all these programs and all this money. They got the money. If you got it, then use it and fix what you got to fix. And another thing, we got the best police department in town. I don't like what they put in the paper about Roanoke was the worst and we were second. No kind of way. This police chief here is the best since I retired in '79. I done went through some police chiefs. He is the best, and the policemen are the best. And I think they need to pat their own selves on the back, regardless of what anybody say about them. And I'm tired of seeing these teachers and all these people come up here saying the program being cut and all. Why don't you go to the school board and say it? And stop coming up here beating up the chops on you people up here and talking nasty to you in any kind of way. It's kind of very ignorant. And if you're a high-class school teacher, to my ability, this is me saying it, I think you're very ignorant. Now, how many kids sit up in school and air conditioning? How many kids go home? Do they have air conditioning? Look at here, 19 and 32. I went to school. I didn't have no air conditioning. And I graduated all the way up through high school. And the heat, when I finally got a fan, I was in high school in 10th grade. And they holler about air conditioning, the kids can't study, they can't do this. How many kids go home to air conditioning? Every kid that go to school got air conditioning when he go home? I don't think so. But I think we need to stop coming up here, because this money that the school teachers all run up here ask for, this money is their money too. So Mr. Rowe, you're doing a fine job pointing out people who is taking money and trying to do bad things. I think the state troopers and for the state and the FBI should come in here and find out what happened to the state money and what happened to the money that we get from the federal government. I think the school board should be investigated. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Major.
Ms. Danielle Honore. She's still here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Honore. I currently attend Churchland High School as a junior, where I'm ranked #1 in my class, and I'm also the class president. Today, I'm here on the behalf of STEM. I am requesting that you all fully fund the Portsmouth Public School budget. Cutting STEM from the budget will affect many students throughout the city of Portsmouth. STEM granted me the opportunity to take part in a biofuels internship program at ODU, well, Old Dominion University, this previous summer. The program was great. It really changed my perspective of science. It allowed me to grow to love science because I never knew I was capable of doing so. The program really opened my eyes to different things that I didn't know even existed about science. And I'm sure this is not just the case for myself. I'm sure it's the case for many students in Portsmouth. When I go to my peers and ask them, what do you want to be in life? What do you want to do? Many of them have no idea at all. they're clueless. They don't know what they want to do in college. They fool around in college 6, 7, 8 years because they're just taking classes because they don't know what they want to do. And programs like the ones that STEM offers will give kids a certain idea of like, oh, well, maybe I want to do this or I want to do that. And it offers a great opportunity for us. We deserve that. I mean, I work hard in school. I was always taught that education is key. It's a privilege for me to go to school. So we, as students today, are the leaders of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done, Danielle. Let me just say congratulations for all that you're doing and accomplishing in school, and it was good seeing you. I think a couple of weeks ago when we celebrated Arbor Day, and over at Churchland High School, and you were amongst the leaders in your class that were there. I think we also had students from the class of 2010, and then we had about 5 or 6 people from the class of 1960.
Yeah.
And so it shows that legacy, and going back and seeing all of the great folks that's come through Churchland and the things that they offer our city, and to see young leaders like yourself in school carrying on that legacy, it makes me proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes,
and I
ma'am.
need a picture with all of y'all once I leave for the Urban League, because I stay here till 9:29 and I got an AP test in the morning.
Thank you. Good night.
Miss Margaret Winley.
Urban. The other little kids went last week, didn't
My name is Margaret Winley. Hello. Greetings, Mayor Wright and Vice Mayor Cherry and Councilman and Councilwoman and John Rowe and George Wilson. I live at 443 Douglas Avenue, and I want to thank you all for putting together the brochure on the city cemeteries. I'm not going to hand it to the Sergeant at Arms because I'm sure he has a copy. And if he hasn't, well, y'all will see to it. You know, a lot of people don't appreciate cemeteries. They make jokes like, oh, that's the most popular place in town because everybody's dying to get in. But cemeteries are important. They have people that were part of our city that built it and were significant. One of these days, all of us, even the youngest in here, will make it to a cemetery or a mausoleum, scatter garden. But I just really want to let you all know that, you know, it's important. We've just gotten almost 4 new cemeteries, and not new, but they're being recognized. They're in the Mount Calvary Cemetery Complex. And, of course, it's not just one. It's Mount Calvary, Mount Olive, Fisher Hill, and Potter's Field or Pauper's Field. And the women who have really put their hearts into this really were glad to be appreciated. That's May Breckenridge Haywood, Christina Carlton, and Brenda and Nadia Orton, and of course Cedar Grove deserves recognition too, and has had a lot of recognition over the years. And that's Pam Clapell and Barbara Early. They deserve recognition also. And while I'm at it, I am a historian amateur, but I haven't been paid for this. it's not just cemeteries that are important. There are places all over the city that nobody knows about, or if they do, they just conveniently forget. Like across the street from where I live, it's not far from what was known at one time as the Barlow Plantation. And if they had a plantation, they must have had enslaved workers. And Halls Creek is so close. I'm sure that several of the enslaved people made it to freedom through Halls Creek. And, you know, it's just nice to recognize history. And remember, we're as we are today, well, people have always been people, have always been the same. You know, look at the ancient Greeks, they dressed differently, but they thought the same. You read the ancient Greek plays, and you'd be amazed at how you can feel the people, the humanism, like the play Agamemnon, but I don't have time. And I just want to thank you all. And I have something that's called the Code of a Gentleman and it was from VMI. I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to give that to your Sergeant at Arms. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Winley, and recognizing all of those names, you certainly should be recognized in that group for all of your passion and hard work. You love this city, you love our history, and let's you and I continue to work together on this side of the cemeteries, and we'll get some things done. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kayla Tyson? No? Our final speaker is Mr. Christopher Banks. Council having no additional speakers.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Wait a minute. You can't adjourn. She wanted to.